Today, we are breaking down the top 25 quarterbacks in the 2026 NFL Draft. As we jump in, it's key to know how I grade players. I usually jump into the first guy, but I honestly think that this is a bit more helpful. First off, they're going to be broken down into tiers as well as a score out of 1 to 100, and the categories are as you see. I'll explain them as they go along, and of course, there is going to be an it factor. Don't take the dream fits too seriously, but let's get into this. Start out with the players that I did not have all 22 tape on. These are only all 22 tape. Cadence Salter is the first one. I'm super excited, but I had some Liberty tape from 2023. I'm not going to be grading him on that. I want to see what the most recent version of him is. But I do know that my sources do have Colorado offensive tape, so I'm super excited the moment that he has some tape for us to put him in here. And then I also want to put Devin Dampier. I don't know how to say his name. Look at me. I mean, does it look like I know how to pronounce names? Maybe. I mean, sometimes I know there's some guys like Bengal that are really good at that. But New Mexico transferred to Utah. I'm extremely excited to see how this guy's going to end up working out. Again, only have New Mexico defensive tape versus Arizona's offense this past year. So I just got to put that out there. But another player that was requested that I was not able to get into. But at number 25, and yes, this is inclusive of every quarterback that I have graded at this point, and it does require a lot of time to grade these quarterbacks. I know 25 is really ballsy for being, like a week and a half into the draft season, but took the time, graded out all these players through multiple games, all 22, and Avery Johnson, to me, is one of the more disappointing players. And I ended up saying that this guy should probably transfer positions, but I will be giving you guys a full game report, which is basically if you sat down next to me, we're watching the game, these are the notes as I am watching it. So sometimes there's some contradictory notes in there, but those are how I initially perceive versus how you basically are watching a game next to me, right? It's not completely concise and everything. It's there to be a flow of thought. But Avery Johnson, let's talk about his game versus Colorado. So first off, he has a slow release, but solid placement when he did an RPO slant. The release needs work. It's way too slow. He threw the ball away over a sack, so I do like that. That's a solid, processing could have been an F, and there are some players in here that do have an F for processing grade. But ball velocity seems poor. Bails away too deep when trying to escape the pocket and does the same thing every time, leading to huge losses. So he bails the exact same way every time. He's extremely predictable in that aspect. He has very good straight line speed. He flashed some better mechanics on a hitch throw to the outside. His placement overall has been solid enough. The ball died on an NFL level out route, so, a little bit deeper with timing. The ball ended up dying and essentially dirted. Throws like a pitcher, but not with any sort of the finesse mechanically. He waits too long to bail the pocket. So timing, there you go. There's that F. That's also why I want you guys to listen to a report, because you get to see it in action rather than me saying, oh, his timing's not good. Kind of showing when, basically throughout a game, when it ends up popping up. Another dirted ball has nearly dirted 3 passes in 2 quarters. Dirted means it hits the ground. If you guys are wondering what the nomenclature is. 0 weight on his back leg. The mechanics are awful. So something that if you guys look at quarterback mechanics videos, and for me, I really do love guys like, I think it's called First Down Academy. There's also a guy who coaches the Rourke brothers, Willis as well, or not Willis, Will Levis. And there's a couple other guys he coaches as well. But, just kind of showing the base, lower, and upper mechanics of quarterbacks. I am no quarterback myself. However, I do think they do a very good job of kind of showing you how to play the game of football. But a big thing is generating power by having weight in your back leg. When a quarterback continues to dirt passes and they're not putting any weight on their back leg, it's pretty obvious that there could be some room for growth right there. But let's get back to it. Perfect skinny post from the slot, but he ended up grabbing his stomach after. Yeah, it's like one great throw. He ended up hurting his core on. I'm like, really? Like, of all times to get hurt, it's like the one time I get hyped for you. Loses vision downfield when pressure. Easy dump off turned into a sack. So there was an easy check down, ended up, basically converting it to a sack because he didn't see the player or process it properly. He ended up overthrowing a slant on a second read pretty badly. So, transitioning from first to second read, not many quarterbacks are able to reset and maintain proper mechanics to create good placement on throws. He is one of those that cannot do that. Another horrible pass off the back foot, too high, and ended up being an interception. He underthrew a seam, but then the wide receiver ended up adjusting and got a touchdown. Overall, not an NFL quarterback. Basically, that end line there is pretty much everything that I'd want to say about it. He just doesn't strike me as an NFL quarterback. He's really fun, but I would say maybe wide receiver is going to be a little bit more in the cards for him. The mechanics are not there. The athleticism is there, but when we're looking at stuff like processing, basically, do you make the right decision? Playmaking, when the play breaks down, do you know how to evolve the play? It's like the timing as well, like the intricacies of the game he does not have. And there's probably going to be 13 quarterbacks drafted this year. Now, out of this list of 25, we might end up seeing 18 of them come out. Avery Johnson, if he has any more eligibility left, which I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, then maybe he's somebody who I'd recommend to stay, but he's definitely not one of those that would be drafted. Today's video sponsor is Penalty Verdict, and a one-of-a-kind app that allows you to vote on penalties for both college and NFL games. Let's jump right into the app. First off, you get to pick your team. This is an app based on voting on penalty calls in real time for both college and NFL football games. So you get to choose your team, but that is going to be for the NFL. I do believe that there's going to be a college feature coming soon as well. Of course, this is designed for you to be able to engage with a community of football fans who desire fair play and accountability. Of course, if you log in every single day, you get more and more XP. I do love that feature 100%. But if you're looking at the screen right now, you get to see that there's a live upcoming final and future games. Clicking right now into San Francisco's game where they ended up playing the Jets, you get to see right here a perfect example of the penalty feed where you get to see a play from Tyrod Taylor who ended up having a penalty. And it describes the play well, describes the penalty, and then you get to vote on a good or bad call. So what this does is unlock the next dimension of sport by engaging with real-time polling of referees, players, and teams. You get to view data-driven insights that lead to informed discussions about the games. It is really awesome. Right here, you get to end up seeing a play-by-play result of the game as well. So it's nice to be able to have everything all in one. Ultimately, Penalty Verdict is in the development phase and would love to hear feedback from you as well and what features you would like to add. Maybe you could toss in one of your favorite college teams in there. But look at the link below and be able to join Penalty Verdict today and make your voice heard. Now let's talk about Luke Altmire next. Luke Altmire is a fun one, former Ole Miss quarterback. He only has 2 years of actual starting experience, but let's talk about his game versus Oregon. This is a lot shorter notes than Avery Johnson's was. Dumb interception when he was doing a grounding, like he actually was trying to ground the ball. The ball can just float off his hand. So you see a B for arm strength is actually really solid. I'm a little bit more of a stickler when it comes to grading. So by the way, if you guys are looking at these grades compared to last year's grades, it was way harder for these players to grade well. So keep that in mind. Like a 53.5 probably is going to be like a 57 in last year's. Not saying that Luke Altmire would somehow be like noticeably better, but what I am saying is that like a 70 is not a 70 year over year. I think that what I did this year was a lot more accurate to what I think these quarterbacks are like built to be, and is a lot better for, all positions not to get preferential treatment. So keep that in mind as well. But regardless, so the ball can float off his hand. Ended up having another dumbass interception. Oh, intentional grounding. He had an intentional ground at the start. He had a dumbass interception after the fact. Bad placement on a 10-yard hitch. Horrible decision on a rollout pass. Forcing a shit ton of passes. Number 88 on Illinois popped. I did not check who that is. Normally I do. Did not see an open receiver, so a wide receiver was wide open. I remember there was a seam that ended up getting wide open. He did not end up seeing it. Literally did not see an open wide receiver in the end zone right in front of him. So he was actually rolling out. It was like about 4 yards from the end zone. He rolled out of the pocket, and there was a receiver right in front of him. And I mean right in front of him. He did not see it. He ended up throwing it to the back of the end zone and ended up not, of course, completing the pass. Does not make sense. This guy, in terms of processing, yeesh. Especially in the red zone. I said, how the fuck could someone literally look at an open receiver and not target them? Ended up throwing another interception, and I said I have zero faith in him. So, the one thing that saved him from being the worst quarterback I graded is that arm strength. But when you don't know who to throw to, the NFL is no longer a game of can you throw to whoever you're looking at. It is, do you know who to throw to? Because it's a prerequisite. You need to be able to throw the football to play quarterback in the NFL. So it's like, cool. Accuracy, awesome. Placement, awesome. That's a prerequisite. How are the finer details? And does not have it. Jaden Mayava, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Please feel free to correct me on these pronunciations. I am no expert at pronunciations. I prefer to get it right. And so if you guys want to correct that, by all means. So I really would appreciate it. He ended up coming in and replacing Miller Moss. Really good build, by the way, 6'4", 220 pounds. There are two grades that end up affecting the overall grade that are not featured in this, and that is both frame as well as mechanics. But those essentially are bled into a lot of other categories as well. So I didn't really feel like it was overwhelmingly like required for us to be looking at that. A lot of times, if you have crap mechanics, you're not going to be very good in terms of the accuracy and such. But there's one quarterback that ends up totally flipping that on its head. I digress. Jaden Mayava ended up coming in and replacing Miller Moss, who will be unfortunately talked about very soon. But let's talk about his game versus Texas A&M. This was the last game. This was the bowl game. Ended up throwing a little low on a hitch route. Ended up forcing a tight end hitch. It was actually really bad. The tight end was like covered. Like the defender, I mean, you might wonder if they need to get a marriage license, how close they were. They're like touching and stuff. Like, do you need like what's going on here? It's a little bit sus. And he still threw the ball. I'm like, why? Like, why would you throw that? So off the bat, it's like forced reads on an initial drive, which you practice this a ton of times. So this shouldn't be new to you. You should know if that read's open, and if that read's not open, what you should do. Really not seeing it off the bat. He ended up being short on a deep right seam route. So for me, I prefer you to overthrow seam routes every single time rather than underthrow them, because most of the time, if you're throwing it, the defender's not as fast as your receiver or got out of place, so they're behind your receiver. I'd prefer for you to like be able to tone it back rather than try to push it a little bit more. Let's get back to it though. Dude looks clueless out there. So yeah, just yeah, and then he ended up, right after I did this, throwing a dumbass interception. And these are verbatim. I'm just reading my notes verbatim. He has a slow throw motion. He ended up pump faking and then threw it right at a covered receiver. I remember this. It was a tight end. I did believe it was a tight end wheel route. I know he threw it to the tight end. It might have been a tight end fade. But the tight end, he ended up pump faking to it. The defenders went towards the tight end. And then he threw it at him. I'm like, what in the hell are you doing? It's insane. This guy ended up having 6 big-time throws versus Notre Dame. Like a 90 grade game versus Notre Dame, and then puts up stuff like this. It mind boggles me. I said, worst quarterback I've studied so far, possibly. One nice throw on a deep out route in this whole game. Overthrew under pressure. Another dumbass interception. Randomly has a couple throws with great placement, and then fades to dumbassery. So if you want to have a like one-liner, like randomly has a couple throws with great placement, then fades to dumbassery. The Jaden Mayava story. Overall, very unimpressed outside of a couple of reps. So, yeah, I mean, there were a couple RPOs where he threw to the middle of the field, like maybe it was a little skinny post, and they were really nice. Outside of that, not good. Not good at all. I was very underwhelmed, and I was really mad. I'm like, dude, you benched Miller Moss for this guy? And I'm not saying Miller Moss is the end-all, be-all. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't know what the hell I was looking at. Like, sometimes it takes a year of reevaluation and, sitting down and watching good quarterbacks, shout out to this past class, to actually understand what to look for. So I'll take it on the chin, and, this video, we'll see that. But Jaden Mayava did not have anything that I thought was better than Miller Moss, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know about the arm strength. I think I graded them pretty much the same. But Diego Pavia is next. This dude's a baller. He's so fun. The problem with him is he has a weak arm. He's definitely not 6 foot. This guy looks like he's Dylan Gabriel 5'10". Like, I'm just going to be honest. I might be 6 foot. Diego Pavia is 6 foot. Maybe they just have giants in their room. But this guy looks small. But he's a really good athlete. The problem with him is he just doesn't like to consistently throw past 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, please, brother. Please. Just throw the ball. But let's talk about his game versus University of Texas. And this is the guy who beat Alabama. And he is a fun quarterback. I mean, again, we're talking about some other quarterbacks that are rated really highly. But talk about his game versus UT. I love how his eyes stay downfield while he scrambles. He has a little bit of zip early on. Nice placement on an RPO, but the ball just does not move very fast. So I said he had a slow ball. Interception on a tip pass. Interception on a shuffle pass as well. He pulled the pass on a forced read that was covered. So I ended up posting this rep as well. I'm a huge fan of when quarterbacks, like there's in RPO, there's one read that you're doing, right? It's pretty much you're handing the ball off or you're just letting it rip to your designed receiver, run or pass. You have the option between the two. That's what RPO stands for. And he ended up electing to throw the pass, right? And first off, it's okay. I mean, like, off the bat, it looked fine. But the defender read it perfectly and lurked it. And he pulled it down and ended up getting a huge game. And I love that because most quarterbacks are like, okay, I'm going to commit to what I did. And he didn't look like he was like, oh, I'm scared. I got to run. No, it was like he processed that it was wrong, pulled it, and then ended up going. So I really like that specific rep when he did that. Would like for him to throw more when scrambling. He does opt to scramble more than throw. Placement has been solid. I just want to see something over 5 yards. Nice job to dump off when the rollout got busted. I remember that he rolled out to the left and then he extended the play and basically allowed the defender who was pursuing him to get out of the passing lane for someone who got open. Needs to look past his first read. He is a very first read type of quarterback until he extends a play. Arm strength and height give UDFA vibes. Risky touchdown, horrible interception. Oh yeah, he was rolling and then just ended up YOLOing it to the other side of the field. And I was just like, what is going on? And then he ended up having a really nice late deep in route. So the play was, he extended it and there was an in route that was developing 15 yards downfield. He ended up having a nice throw there. So it was good to see that. But Diego Pavia, man, there's only so many quarterbacks can be taken, right? And when you have not an elite arm, like we're going to talk about some other guys who are sub 6 foot in this class. And we kind of already did with, I'm forgetting the Utah transfer. But we also have Noah Fafita. Fafita has an arm to him. And that's what makes him more draftable. When you're short and then don't have an arm, it's very scary because also you think about trajectory and such. You kind of need to have a little bit more velocity if those big ass 6'7" defensive interiors and such are going to get their big ass paws in your way. So just keep that in mind. This is going to piss some people off. Nico Agholor, I think he's going to be going back. There's a whole lot of stuff that he needs to work on. Tennessee doesn't do a very good job at producing NFL quarterbacks, in my opinion. Like in terms of getting them ready. And I mean, I don't know what the hell's up with my collar, but there we go. But regardless, Nico, it's unfortunate. Tennessee just not really the right spot for him. I think UCLA might be a better spot for him to grow and develop into an NFL quarterback. And there's a whole lot of bullshit that's going on with him in the NIL stuff. But right now, he landed on UCLA. And I think for his professional development, this might be better. I love the Vols. Like, I love him with a passion. But I think we all agree that the system is just not super translatable to the NFL, which is why certain Tennessee players that are maybe not receivers or running backs end up like slipping a bit. But, regardless, let's talk about his game versus the Ohio State University in the playoffs. He went through progressions off the bat, which is good to see. He's an explosive athlete. Good pocket movement, but took a hit to the helmet. Needs to check down over scramble. The Ohio State defensive line was feasting on its offensive line. Near interception on a forced redirected route. So he redirected the wide receiver and then ended up throwing it, even though it was already covered, almost was an interception. High-end layer pass over Igbinosun. I ended up posting that rep as well on Twitter. Feel free to go follow me over there. I guess it's called X now, but you could call it whatever you want. Tight window throw on a skinny post. I ended up saying wow to that, so it's good to see. He does have some pretty good placement. His arm is not a question for me at all. Igbinosun interception on a badly lofted pass under pressure. Awfully forced hitch route. So he ended up forcing a throw that just, again, on a hitch route, which is a button hook. For those of y'all who have been hearing me say the word hitch, it's going to happen quite a bit. I love looking at hitch throws because that's how it's one of the plays where you need to have perfect placement where you get to see if there's a defender nearby, does the quarterback throw with leverage? Like if there's no one nearby, are you able to actually throw it on target? It's good to see. It's a really translatable rep because every single system uses it. And so you get to see across all quarterbacks almost identical throws in identical situations. I'm not saying it's the end all be all by any way, shape, or form, but it's something I love to note. But basically, if hitch route was covered, he ended up forcing it. I hate when that happens because it shows that even though a defender is very clearly right there. It's not like you have to project where the defenders are going to be on a post route or something like that. This is like, he's right there, brother. Like, he's right there. Ended up forcing it. Then ended up backing it up with a nice 10-yard hitch throw. Cannot handle processing under pressure at all. He forced a hitch route that was triple covered. Yeah, finally found a check down, a ton of swatted balls. Missed a seam route inside, so I'm not a huge fan of that. If you are throwing a seam route to somebody who's on the boundary, I prefer for you to miss deep or outside. Outside, the sideline's not going to intercept you. Deep, the ground is not going to intercept you. Granted, if you're trying to shoot the honey hole, which is like between the cover two, deep half, and then also the cloud flat, like that's a little bit different. But this is like talking about just straight up one-on-one, and you're throwing the seam route. If you throw it inside, that's the leverage that the defender's on, right? If you throw it behind, that's the leverage the defender's on. If you throw it deep, then your receiver is probably the only one. If you throw it too deep, he's the only one who could possibly get to it. Throw it too far outside, it'd be very difficult for the defender to get in the way. If he does, then, well, just call him Caleb Downs. But regardless, let's get back to it. Finally found, okay, so another miss outside right. He ended up, there was a dropped seam touchdown, though. He ended up throwing a really nice ball on a seam, ended up being dropped. Roller coaster, mostly awful, though. Elite arm potential with athleticism. So those are the bones what you're looking for. It's why he's such a good college quarterback. But it's under pressure that I really hate how he processes. It's forcing the first read that I absolutely detest. And if you're able to show, because the first rep, he ended up going through progressions, I'm like, yes. Like, y'all don't realize how easy it is for Nico Agholor to be able to boost his grade from a 61 to like an 80. Like, it is so easy because he has the arm and he has the mobility. If this guy just learns to not force the first read and then be able to choose a check down or at least see what the hell is going on when he's under pressure, this guy is shooting up tremendously, which I think UCLA might be able to instill in him a little better than a much more simplistic and unique offense there at Tennessee. So I'm excited for that. Let's talk about Jake Retzlaff next. And again, please feel free to correct me on pronunciation. Another guy who, very similar to Nico Agholor, really good arm, good athlete. The processing is not there. So let's talk about his game versus Arizona State. It's a later season game. He ended up starting out the game with just throwing a teardrop pass, which is super duper deep. And then he ended up, just overlofting it. It's the first play. To be fair, when you're on your first drive, or at least the first two drives, I'm expecting a lot more precision and perfection because this is what you've been practicing the whole week, right? These are these scripted drives. And so if you're not doing that properly, I do have my concern. But let's get back to it. He ended up missing the teardrop badly. Tight window slant. So I do like the fact that he can end up fitting into a tight window. His timing's a bit off. And on top of that, that slant route I just mentioned, it was a tight window because he threw it a bit late. Like, something I did notice with Jake is that, like, there's certain quarterbacks that can throw with anticipation. And if you can throw with anticipation, timing grade's probably going to be pretty high, right? Like, you're not waiting until after the guy's cut. And for Jake, it was a post cut with an extra step. And then he ended up throwing the slant route, which there was enough room for it. I mean, that's why it worked. But the NFL athletes are a lot better. So I'll just put that there as well. He ended up forcing a throw for a turnover-worthy play. Placement has been solid outside of that opening throw, which, again, a teardrop route, maybe the wide receiver even ran it incorrectly, but I digress. Has major issues when he's under pressure with forcing passes and panicking. I would love for some anticipation. Nice throw on the run, deep right. Beautiful deep right pass, or deep right out route pass, and I believe I ended up posting that as well. Horribly forced deep pass that was a turnover-worthy play. He has weird mechanics that are not great when he's pressured. It almost led to a dirted pass as well. Another YOLO touchdown shot that was a bad decision. So he tried to make a touchdown throw, ended up being a bad decision. Not an elite athlete, still very good, but I mean, I ended up reading this thing before, and this is why I love y'all. I really need to watch out for when I end up reading little articles that y'all send me before I watch somebody. And then there's this guy, Tristan Kuhn, shout out to him on X. Very smart guy. He works for App State. Like, he ended up sending me his quarterback list. I literally purposely ignored him because I love his opinion. And I'm like, I can't look at this. It's gonna like make me like totally look at players differently. So, just keep that in mind. But like, I ended up seeing this thing where it's like, oh, this guy's a live arm and a really, really good athlete. He's a good athlete. He's not an elite athlete. All right. Like, to me, he's not an elite athlete. Nice temp hitch. Oh, okay. Temp hitch. My dumbass. I definitely do not know what that means, but tempo hitch. So that's what happens when you're typing on a computer really fast. Basically, when you're just throwing perfectly in rhythm, I love rhythm passes. 2-minute drill, you're just trying to, it's first down or second and short, and you're just throwing to the sticks. That's what I really like. It's nice in rhythm. I love to see it. Nice layer thread over the deep middle. Really needs to work on anticipation. So that's where that D on timing comes in. Perfect seam shot for a touchdown that ended up being dropped. He ended up juking somebody. Love seeing that. Overthrowing a bit in the red zone, but it's better to overthrow than underthrow for the reasons I mentioned. Poor placement when he arms it. So when he doesn't have his legs underneath him, he ends up being like, I think I ended up seeing this as well on, I think it was, it might have been a tunnel screen. He ended up keeping his legs in place and then throwing just like with his upper body. He's just like this, and it was off. And it's like consistently when he doesn't use his lower body, tends to be off. Not a fan of that, but let's get back to it. It is what it is though. But his placement overall ended up dropping as the game went on. He ended up doing a shot in the honey hole, but the defensive backs was late, so it wasn't a real threat. I ended up posting this one as well. It was a touchdown shot. It was a cover one. It was a show cover one and it ended up being a cover two. So the safety was right in the middle of the field, and you ended up seeing a defensive back drop into another deep half, and he was supposed to go over the top or go from over the top to his deep half. Ended up being extremely slow over that. So it wasn't exactly like, okay, here's the corner, here's the safety, you're hitting it right in between there for the touchdown. No, it was like the corner's here, the safety's here, right? Like there's a pretty clear path, not as much of an issue. So I would just say it was good to see, but it still ended up being a good shot nonetheless. I would just say don't overreact as if it was the best throw on planet Earth. But Jake Retzlaff, man, a ton of potential. I mean, a ton of potential. It's just, don't make bad decisions. Just saying. It's hard for quarterbacks to get good processing and playmaking grades, but it's also hard to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think that's fair to say. Let's talk about Miller Moss next. I mean, yeah, I'm going to eat crow with this one. I mean, I love Miller Moss. But yeah, this is, it's kind of sad, but I mean, it's true. As the season went on, he got worse and worse and worse. Let's talk about his game versus Washington, his final game of the year before he ended up transferring to Louisville. Too long of a windup for a short range throw, ended up getting swatted. Interception, not turnover worthy play. Had nice progressions and ended up being off the tight end's hands. So it ended up being an interception, but I didn't say it should have been a turnover-worthy play. Ended up doing a good job hitting the tight end in the hands and going through those progressions. The tight end just dropped it, ended up being interception nonetheless. Solid decision so far. The zip is really not there. He's an apt athlete, not a good one, which C is adequate according to how I grade things. But near interception because he threw with anticipation, but not out in front far enough. So that's the risk of anticipation. You have to be really good to be able to play well with it. He's not getting a ton of pressure, so he's throwing pretty much unpressured. Near interception because he threw with anticipation, but not, I ended up dumbass. Good processing so far. The ball died on a deep crosser. Not a fan of that. He ended up seeing a streak get wide open. Hail Mary interception when he was 10 yards short. Yeah, also not good to see that. He ended up having a seam shot touchdown, posted that one on X as well. Another deep pass completion. He needs his lower mechanics to end up generating NFL level velocity. So that arm strength is not good. Similar to what I was talking about with Retzlaff. Retzlaff was more so, the issue was accuracy without the lower half. Miller Moss doesn't have the arm, so you need to generate that power from the lower half. And unfortunately, the arm, when separated, does not have what it takes to be in the NFL. Bad interception, trying to force a pass over the linebacker. So I posted that one as well. Shout out to Carson Bruner, new Steeler. And then ended up forcing a fade route. Nice pressure evasion and tight window throw on the run to end off the game. But I mean, Miller Moss is kind of like your dream QB3. He has the foundational ability to, throw with anticipation, throw pinpoint passes as well. He's not a bad athlete. Like, think of what we think of Mac Jones now. That's kind of what I think of Miller Moss. So, whether you love that, whether you hate it, feel free to disagree. But, he is my quarterback at 19. Haynes King, the king, is next. Haynes King is fun. He is a fun quarterback to watch. He's really interesting. He's interestingly a very linear athlete. Like, I don't see a lot of shake and bake to him. It's very like full throttle to the front. But he's an interesting quarterback to say the least. He's an interesting quarterback. Let's talk about his game versus Georgia this year, though. So far, has had solid placement in terms of favoring receivers, but he does throw to where it's not in stride. So, similar to what I was talking about, where if there's a corner on your rear, you want to throw out in front, right? If they're on their inside, you want to throw to the outside. Haynes King threw properly, but he might throw a little too far. Like, what I saw was he was throwing a little too high, and that would stop your receiver from, maintaining the stride that they were in. Not saying that was every throw, because I honestly thought he had some throws that were pretty pinpoint, but I would say that especially starting out the game, when he tries to arm it as well, it ends up kind of getting a little wonky, if you will. But let's get back to it. Nice post shot, perfectly layered over the linebacker support and under the defensive back. Poor timing in the red zone. At least he threw away from the defensive back. He's a straight line athlete. There you go. Placement can fluctuate. Not seeing a ton of decision-making ability in time-sensitive areas like the red zone and 3rd and 4th down. You guys wonder why he has a 2- on the it factor? It's because he had a horrible time when it comes to processing what to do in the red zone and 3rd and 4th down. The one time I saw him do the right thing in the red zone, it took him 3 seconds to find a drag route that was right in front of him. I'll just put that there. Perfect spot on an RPO pass. Not a fan of the throwing mechanics. Kind of feels like a cheap version of Bo Nix, which funnily enough, he wears number 10. He ended up throwing a near pick 6. Big concern in the red zone. So, I mean, overall, Haynes King, though, like, he's a fun player. It was fun to see him in the Elite 11. I think isn't he, like, old? Like, I swear, I can't remember which, like, Elite 11 I saw, but part of me believes that it was, like, the Matt Corral year. I don't think it was, but I mean, I still remember watching him in the Elite 11, and I think it was the last Elite 11 that I watched. So I can't remember what year that was, but Haynes King's been around, if I'm not mistaken. Kairen Drones is next. This dude has a lot of potential. Another guy. And you're going to see a lot of 2- and stuff on the it factor. When these quarterbacks don't make the right decisions, most of the time when you're, pressed on time and you're not good with your timing or decision making, i.e. the red zone, 4th and short, etc., you're most likely not going to do well in the red zone, or like you're not going to do it well. So that's why. I mean, I think that it's very crucial to be good in the red zone. I think it's very crucial to be on, doing the right thing on crucial downs. So, again, being an NFL quarterback's tough. This is right now, we're right there at the developmental tier where you're not a guaranteed practice squad or backup kind of player. Which, again, being developmental guarantees that you're a backup, but you have a greater vision for what you should be. How about that? Let's talk about his game versus Clemson. It was the primary game of all 22 that I had of him that I really thought was translatable. It was not a ton of throws, but based on that combined with all my other studying of him, I honestly thought that it ended up doing the job. He ended up having some wonky throw mechanics off the bat, ended up at least throwing the ball away, which was a big problem for him before. I always used to say, check the ball down or throw it away, and he used to not do it, but good to see that off the bat. Quick throw on the run, good spot on a comeback. I wish it had anticipation. There's another thing I was like really hoping, like with his arm strength and his ability to put it on a dime when he is, using his head right, when his head's screwed on properly. I was really hoping to see Kairen Drones be able to use a little bit more anticipation, but it does have some problems with it. He ended up going through some progressions on certain plays. He has a cannon. Dudes can't handle the zip. So his wide receivers consistently kept dropping the ball because it would hit them and then it would end up bouncing off. He ended up having a nice rhythm hitch. So I was talking about that. Basically, you get to the top of your drop and it's just nice, quick, easy delivery. I love when I get to see a quarterback do that. It's the foundation of the game. If you're able to keep an offense in rhythm rather than continue to have to extend play, it's quite nice. It's quite nice to be able to just be like, okay, I'm doing my 3-step drop and I'm hitting the guy who is supposed to be there at the time that I'm throwing it. I love seeing that with all my quarterbacks. Took a shot over the deep. Took a shot deep. Wish he had targeted the crossing route though. So there was a crossing route that was more open, and he ended up actually throwing like a deep post. Really wish that he ends up seeing a little bit less of the end zone and a little bit more of who is more open. Nice job checking down with 3 defenders in his face, though I would like it a little bit sooner. He had a turnover where he play on a forced pass, so he tends not to see well with the receiver coming from the backside when he's rolling. So let's just say you're rolling out this way and the receiver's coming from this side. Even if he's uncovered, Kairen Drones has some issue with being able to see him. Like he kind of just sees like directly in front of him. Doesn't have very much peripheral vision, which I thought was interesting because he actually feels pressure very well in the pocket. So he kind of has some sense of what's going on around him, but I guess maybe it doesn't apply to what his receivers are doing down the field. But would like for him to gun it a little bit more over the middle. But I also ended up having the theory, well, he's probably not doing it because his receivers keeps dropping it. But at the same time, I'd rather my receiver drop it than kind of loft it, either have it be a turnover-worthy play or get my receiver absolutely shellacked by a defensive back or a linebacker for that matter. Does a nice job navigating the pocket. He needs to accept drag routes as legit options to target. Remember what I was talking about? He ended up bailing the pocket into an edge rusher. Ended up having a gorgeous seam shot. A seam shot is basically you're running a go route and you end up throwing it. If you guys are wondering about that, I've said it a couple times. Interception on a forced seam the next play. And that's how his tenure of the game ended. I believe he ended up being subbed out at that point. But the bottom line is Kairen Drones just needs to get in rhythm. He flashes the potential. He has the arm. I liked him at Baylor. If you guys look back, I think it was a way too early 2024 mock that I had Kairen Drones going in the first, thinking that he's going to take a big step for Baylor because I like the flashes at Baylor. And he's still working on it at VT, and I'm hoping that he ends up getting there. But I will just say it's a little bit of room to grow. Sam Levit's next, and this is someone who I have a lot of faith in to be a lot better than what he is right now. There's a lot of room to grow, and I mean a lot of room to grow. I like Sam. Again, keep this in mind. I think that he's going to be a lot better. The player he is now will not work in the NFL. He is atrocious at several things that are required at the next level. However, he makes some amazing plays. And I think Sam Levit should probably, I don't know how many more years of eligibility, but if he does not take a noticeably large step this year, I would just say take the NIL money, stay in college. I mean, hell, Shuck just ended up going at 40. Doesn't look like age is that big of a factor if you end up truly improving. But let's talk about his game versus Texas. It was his last game, and it was also one of his lowest graded. So I like to see how players kind of struggle, see if it's going to translate, and if they end up succeeding, because there's certain players that, Antoine Powell-Ryland's a great example of this on the Eagles. His worst game was versus Miami. I still really liked him that game. If I still like you when you suck, I'm going to like you when you're good. So keep that in mind as well. It's a tactic I like to use. Like, I'll see where you flash, why you flash, but I also want to see where you fade and why you fade. Is it because your offensive line is that atrocious, John Mateer, or is it going to be because you just don't know what the hell's going on? So let's talk about it for Sam Levit, though. He was late on a curl route that ended up being a near interception, so ended up seeing Jade almost lurk it, if I'm not mistaken. Good placement on a short route. Good to see that, like, off the bat. Nice step up in delivery over to a crosser. Good sack evasion. The crosser I ended up posting, if I'm not mistaken, on X as well. I always post clips over there. I'm not this guy who likes to accumulate it and then say, oh, look at what I'm looking at. I do it because when I make these videos, I'm very focused on YouTube, right? This is like where I put all my energy. On Twitter, I do it for fun, but I also like to give you guys something to look at that where you end up listening to me talk about this and you can actually go back and look at the reps that I'm referencing. So, I mean, if you guys want to see that, feel free to go follow me over there. I do shit post a lot, but at the same time, I do it to back up what I do here. There are certain places or certain individuals who have pretty much their Twitter as their primary for what they do for scouting. That is not what I do. So it's like, I'll just say, if you're looking for massive compilations, not the guy. But if you just want to see some backups to what I'm talking about here, I like to be able to post them over there as well. But let's get back to it. He had a nice clean delivery. You can tell the processor is not developed as a passer when the play breaks down. He has silly athleticism, but ended up overthrowing on the run. Has some good sack evasion, super deep drops. He needs to watch out for that. So a big issue with Shedeur Sanders, a lot of people talked about, was the fact that he dropped 10, 11 yards in the pocket. And when you do that and you have a pocket boundary like this, you're giving defenders, rather than having to go this way to you, they have a much quicker and easier shot for them to get from A to B. You might say, well, the distance is actually farther, Alex, but no, the path of resistance is a lot less because you're not having to go through a tackle if you're just pretty much glazing, pause. But if you're basically grazing their outside shoulder to be able to get to the quarterback. Sam takes like 14-yard drops randomly, and then he bails even deeper. I'm like, Sam, for the love of God, learn what a pocket is. It gets to me. It gets to me. But let's get back to it. Clean delivery, finally scrambled and checked down. So happy to see that. Good placement on a high point pass. He needs to watch out for lofting passes deep because there was a near interception. So have a little bit more zip on the ball, which I know he has it, but it's like, do not just teardrop the pass every time. You are no Dylan Gabriel. Finally had a big time throw scrambling after the play broke down. At least he throws the ball away. So I do like when players do that. Hero ball pisses me off. You're just going to throw a lot of interception in the NFL. College players are not as advantageous as NFL players, except for apparently when you play Lamar Jackson or Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to leave that there. I just pissed off a whole lot of people. But regardless, his drop depth is an issue. I put that in all caps. Hospital ball lofted over the middle of the field short range. Perfectly placed comeback route. I just wish he threw with more anticipation. Does not have the speed to beat elite athletes as explosive as he is. Still a great athlete, but he was playing some dogs there in Texas. Or, I guess that's Georgia, but you guys get what I'm saying. He has a weird charge up when he ends up lobbing the ball. So his mechanics change when he's actually taking velocity off the pass. I'm not a fan of it. Underthrew a deep left route, but the wide receiver balled out. So shout out, I believe it was Jordan Tyson. Guy's going to be good. And I'm debating on the next position I'm drafting. This is going to be showing who's actually watching at this time. Let me know what position you want. I'm thinking it's going to be safety, but wide receivers in the mix. I want to do offensive tackle or something on the offensive line, but that just doesn't do too well. So I want something where you guys are going to want to watch it because we're early into the year. If I'm going to devote a lot of my energy and free time, I want you guys to enjoy it. But dumbass interception. There we go. Huge issue with him drifting backwards and throwing off his back foot. Not a fan of that. His placement has decreased overall. Huge issue with him drifting backwards, throwing off his back foot. Does not know how to lob with a quicker release. Has issues when trying to throw with anticipation. Ended up throwing another hospital pass. Underthrew a deep fade route to the right. And it's overall kind of felt like he was playing NCAA 25. It did not feel very translatable to the NFL. I do think there's a bright future for Sam Levit, but he needs to hone in on the intricacies of the game. Right now, it kind of feels like he's a gamer. Gamers don't usually work in the NFL, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong about this. But ready to get your feathers ruffled? Got Garrett Nusmire at 15. I'm going to come and get fucking destroyed for this. He's 6'2", 200 off the bat. Can we, talk about this? The guy's nearly under 200 pounds. He doesn't look like it. He actually looks pretty well built. But he's small. He's small. Is this not an issue? He's small, doesn't have a great arm, makes bad decisions from time to time, but no one wants to talk about it. This guy's the number one pick. I'm shocked. I am shocked about this. It just kind of mind boggles me because he wasn't a first-round pick last year, and we were talking about him as a potential one because it was a weak class. All of a sudden, this guy who's had legitimate, huge issues is going to be a number one overall pick. And I am guilty of this as well. I've kind of put him into that range for what I'm projecting, but it's why can't you just play the game of football right? Garrett, for the love of God, you have flashes that I love. Make it consistent, man. Make it consistent. Let's talk about his game versus Alabama. Starts out the game by randomly throwing a ball away instead of checking it down. He forced an end zone shot. Again, he's a playmaker. Ended up having a sniper shot down the seam. That was actually a great catch as well by Mason Taylor. Forced a crossing route. That's a turnover-worthy play. To be fair, Xavier Brown. Oh my God, this kid, this Alabama true freshman, man. I ended up posting this. Actually, the tweet did pretty damn well as well. So shout out to all y'all who've been supporting that. But he ended up doing a crazy lurk. So I'm not gonna put it all on Garrett. I will say if he had more zip to his arm, probably would have gotten there. I will just say that. And remember, guys, C is adequate. Like, C is adequate. He ended up throwing a hospital route on a flat route. Not a fan of when you put your guys in danger on pretty reserved routes. Like, you're supposed to do that if it's like, you're going to get a legitimate gain. You don't sacrifice your guys for no gain. His arm fluctuates a lot. So he does have some reps that have a little more zip, but it's just some balls die. Some of them do really well. I don't understand why this is not talked about as much. He ended up fumbling on a scramble, consistently low on screens. This is what I'm talking about. Like, consistently the ball, rather than being placed here, rather than being placed to the inside where maybe they can take it and go it up the field, he's throwing it to where they have to dip down. And it's like, brother, you're a good quarterback. I see you throw perfectly to much more complicated routes. Why are you not doing this as consistently? Or why are you actually failing at a simple route so consistently? But again, I want Nusmire to succeed so badly. I have tried so many times to justify it. But let's get back to it. He forced an in route with open checkdowns. Again, like when I see players get greedy over smart, ruffles my feathers. He ended up being late on a deep in route. He does the layer pass very well. Most others are very inconsistent when it comes to this. He is not. So he's good when it comes to layering. Layering being between, pretty much two levels of the defense, whether it be like linebackers and safeties, primarily what it is, or maybe like a corner and a safety. He does a good job of layering passes. I just don't see enough consistency from him. He forced a red zone shot that ended up being an interception. Wide receivers keep bailing out poorly placed passes. Processing takes longer than ideal. Throws with a disregard for the sideline, causing a missed opportunity. So basically, he ends up, throwing too far outside, which again, I prefer that over not doing it. But basically, it was a deep pass. They ended up throwing too far to the outside. It would have been a touchdown if he ended up throwing it inside properly. But if I'm not mistaken, ended up, being too far outside. The receiver was not able to keep their feet in bounds. Interception while forcing a pass to a more covered receiver when the open hitch route was right in front of him. Easy way to get me pissed off. Like, just throw an interception when there's an easy open route right in front of you. The ball does take a while to get there. Overall, has the peaks to be a legit high first round pick, but has a shit ton of valleys. The game of Garrett Nusmire. And again, why is no one talking about this guy being almost under 200 pounds? He literally doesn't look like it. This dude looked built. I don't understand how he's 200. I literally, if you guys saw, I ended up stopping the video because I'm like, did I fuck this up? Ended up just checking PFF. It's like 6'2", 200. I'm like, what's going on? But let's talk about Sawyer Robinson. I really like this guy. I got to see him in person versus Kansas. I really like him. So let's keep that in mind. But I will say before we start, and I'll talk about this in the overall evaluation of him, which we'll be talking about his game versus Iowa State, which this is going to be a long one, so brace yourself. I hated how unpressured Robertson was. Shout out to that offensive line at Baylor. And I think Campbell is actually still there. I think it's Campbell-Barrington. Their offensive line kicked ass versus Iowa State. Granted, it's Iowa State, but I mean, Iowa State still had multiple high-end players. Miles Purchase, Malik Vernon. I think he might have been out for this game, but regardless, also Darian Porter, like really solid players. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. But let's watch his game versus Iowa State. So he underperformed this game as well. He ended up forcing a fade route inside. Good thing the defender fucked up when it comes to tracking the ball. So, guy didn't see it properly because it should have been an interception. Nice throw with anticipation on a deep curl route. Good job climbing the pocket and continuously looking for other targets while scrambling. Not bad placement on a deep post route. Great find in the honey hole on a broken play. Solid spot on a fade on the goal line, but the wide receiver did not run the route correctly. Elongated a forced fade route the second time with worse mechanics. So it was on the goal line. He ended up basically elongating the play and ended up having worse mechanics, ended up, kind of botching it on this second play. Still had okay placement. I don't know why Baylor is so obsessed with these fades. Great play design for a fake scramble with a throw to the touchdown. Would love to see layer shots, but he took a safe option on his second read and ended up, basically, it was only second and long. So I like the fact that he ended up basically trying to get it much easier to move the sticks rather than putting himself in a third and long situation. He went through progressions and found a dump off. So big fan of when quarterbacks basically go through progressions quickly and end up still making a smart decision. Some guys go through progressions and feel like they still need to hit a big play because they took so much time progressing. Not a fan of that. But let's get back to it. Great play extension and scramble for a first down. He could have tried to force it and have an end zone shot, but he tried to redirect his wide receivers so he could do it, but he chose to do the right decision and ended up running. Ended up getting the first down too, which is a plus. He ended up having a great placement on another goal line slot fade route. His arm's a bit weak without the lower body in sync. A ball died when he was under pressure on an out route. So, I do think that his ability to arm it is not maybe at the same level as some other guys like Retzlaff. Even Retzlaff has his potential concerns. But back to it. So I ended up saying, yeah, there we go. Nice job finding the soft spot in zone. The wide receiver did not slow down, but I like the idea behind it. He just needed better execution. And he also, to be fair, was bumped by an offensive tackle. So he was under pressure, and basically the receiver ended up getting to a soft spot in the zone. A lot of smart NFL receivers slowed down because if you keep running too fast, you're running into someone else's zone, right? And, Sawyer basically threw as if the player was going to slow down. They did not. So ended up being a botched play, but I actually liked the thought process behind it. Perfect placement on a seam shot. Placement can wane when he tries different arm angles. Again, it's just like, guys, if you're not going to be a master at every single arm angle, switching it up unless you have to do it, like let's just say a defender is jumping the lane and you're changing your arm angle to make it possible. That's the only time where I really think changing arm angles is like a good thing, unless you're a Patrick Mahomes type that genuinely can throw at every arm angle. Sawyer, I don't think he has that finesse. He can make interesting decisions when under pressure. He threw late to a crosser. He needs to speed up his release. These checkdowns are getting hit too soon after the catch. Nice scramble and throw to a comeback for a first. Tends to lead too much on flat routes to the left. It's actually a couple of times that he did this. Yeah, it was like he kind of let it too much to where they had to pretty much go straight out of bounds. A lot more field that ended up being left on the table. Plays tempo well. Perfect placement on a seam shot to the wide receiver. Almost ended up getting it in, so I think the receiver dropped it. I'm worried about how he handles pressure, but he does throw well on the move. Nice sack evasion and throwing a touchdown. He did throw late, but it ended up working out. He had a pump throw that was short, but it was also too inside. So after pumping, remember when that sounds so wrong, but after doing a pump fake, when I was talking about how some quarterbacks on even second reads have to reset. And then if they don't, they end up having like poor mechanics, poor placement. There's kind of a similar situation with Sawyer Robinson, which not many quarterbacks are kind of trained to pump fake. It's kind of a lost art, so I understand why, but it's still worth mentioning. Would like the fade or seam shots outside right to be a little bit more outside, but the wide receiver got bitched by a cornerback and pushed heavily to the boundary. So on that play, it was pretty much, I think it was a slot route, but regardless, it was like a slot fade to seam. And what I really thought happened is Sawyer threw it to the right spot, but the wide receiver lost the strength battle so much that the route he was supposed to go on would have been right on target, but the corner literally physically stopped him from going to that route because the wide receiver couldn't push in and maintain the route that he was going. You need to be able to win that as a wide receiver. And I honestly was debating whether I'd actually hit him for that, which in totality, it doesn't really mean much. Deep accuracy, I give him a B+, and just arguably the best in the class. But Nice scramble throw for comeback for a first. Ended up talking about that. There we go. I am worried about how he handles pressure, but he does well on the move. Ended up saying that already again. That's funny. So twice in a row, I ended up talking about it. He ended up flicking a pass for a first down on 4th down with pressure. So good to see. At least he can handle pressure. Horrible loft under pressure for a near interception. Cannot do that in the NFL. Ended up then having an interception on an overextended play, and he forced a touchdown throw on 4th and 2. So I understand it. It's 4th and 2. You got to force something, but I do think that he had the opportunity to try to get something a little bit shorter. Overall, love the flashes, but huge concerns when it comes to handling pressure in late game situations. Granted, this was earlier in the year, and he seemed to have improved noticeably with the polish, but he can end up, in my opinion, still being a first-round pick, which is ballsy to say, but I mean, 15 and 14 and actually 16, all those guys I talked about having the potential to go much higher than where I project them. And Jaylen Daniels, we're going to keep this short and sweet. We've talked about him so many times. Let's talk about his game versus Colorado. Just a little bit of an older prospect, but, someone who I got to see in person versus Baylor, and really, really fun player, but ended up returning to school. I don't think he should have done that, is what it is. Nice timing on a speed out route. Yeah, nice tight window on a slant throw. Flashing contact balance as a runner. Timing is a bit off overall. So had a nice one off the bat. Ended up being a lot worse as time goes on. Again, the difference between a scripted play as well as a non-scripted set of plays. Smart use of the legs overall. He ended up missing a flat route. Can play hero ball. There you go. Forced a seam route. Overall, he's a good runner with a flashy arm, but I overrated it in 2024. I would be happy to have him as a high-end backup. So, short and sweet. Jaylen Daniels, he has the plays that are just like, whoa, what the hell? But he also has the ones that are like, what the hell? So, he's a fun roller coaster of a player. Tayen Green, man, I swear to God, this guy pisses me off so much. Like, makes me like literally want to rip my hair out type shit. Like, I cannot stand Tayen Green because he has weird mechanics. He kind of turns everything on its head for me. He has weird mechanics, slow mechanics. He doesn't know where the hell he's throwing, but he has an insanely strong arm and he is laser pinpoint. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Let's talk about this game versus Texas. We're doing it for everybody else. Hodge is getting open constantly to the point where Luke Hodge literally was jumping up and down. No wonder he transferred. He was jumping up and down on tape, pissed off that he wasn't being targeted. And I ended up saying, so I ended up having a couple, the Ole Miss game in here as well, where he ended up not throwing the drag route multiple times. My next note was he found the drag route, forced a deep throw for a bad decision. Another bad choice, but he threaded 3 defensive backs. It ended up being an interception, though, only because the wide receiver dropped it. The amount of times I've seen Tayen Green thread a ball between 3 defensive players and hit a wide receiver right in the hands. When there's an open check down that like would have probably gotten more yards, I don't know what to say. Just stepped up for a throw on the run on a dime for 30 yards to a crossing route. Ended up posting that as well. It's like, he is an enigma. He's an anomaly. It's weird. I said, please check down. I swear. He thread 3 defensive backs again on a hitch route with a wide open swing pass. And I said, brother, please stop scrambling into pressure. This guy needs to show the ability to play with tempo. Dude cannot handle pressure and keep his eyes downfield in the pocket. Finally, a little bit of tempo. Did not feel frontside pressure. Sniper shot deep right. This guy is the most irritating player I have ever studied. like, how are you so good at throwing the football, but you're just not a good quarterback? It's just like, why? Like, why? You don't have any of the mental part of the game down. And he's 6'6", 230. Like, that is elite. And he's a straight line athlete, but it's just like, what in the actual fuck nugget, man? It's crazy. It's crazy. Tayen Green is an enigma. I hope he just goes to a place where he can really sit and grow and develop. I don't know what team that is. Roco Brown, I think that's how I'm saying it correctly, is next. He's a fun player. Very fun player. But again, what's up with these guys being like around 200 to 210, man? Like, all these guys. We got the short kings out here, the sub 6'3s. But let's talk about his game versus Baylor. A lot of players did pretty well versus Baylor, I will admit. But he missed seeing a wide receiver wide open over the middle to start out the game. Really solid athlete. He forced a seam route back shoulder. It's a bad idea. Solid placement on a slot fade. Placement has been a little spotty and not with enough anticipation. I said this guy just thread between 3 defenders with elite placement. I think I ended up posting that as well as a post route. Or actually, no, it was a slant route of all things. I'm like, why would you thread a slant route? Missed seeing a check down. At least he slides. Dude is just not great at processing quickly. Jaden Higgins, I said J Hig. I'm like, what the hell is that? Jaden Higgins got open quickly and was not seen until he changed his route. So Jaden Higgins got really open really quickly on an out route. Ended up then Roco did not see it. So then he ended up turning it up the field, and then that's when Roco ended up targeting him, and it ended up not being caught because, the defender caught up by that time. A little bit annoying on that because I was like, damn, Jaden Higgins cooked. Great anticipation on a hitch route to Knoll, and I just said, bro, check down in all caps. Absolute sniper shot on a post route. Excellent mechanics on teardrop throws. So really good on the back leg. He's not leaning over to one side when he throws. It's really solid upper and lower mechanics. But regardless, good shot under pressure. Took a hit, a little short, but it still ended up being caught. So he ended up, while being pressured, ended up making the throw, stood in the pocket, got hit. Love seeing that. And even though it was a little short, still was catchable. A dumbass interception in the red zone. Not a fan of that. Slot fade inside, but I don't know if the wide receiver was supposed to run a streak route. It wasn't very clear. It looked like it might have been a mistake on the receiver. I was not going to knock either player for that, but it's still worth noting. I love his willingness to throw deep, but he has a great wide receiver core that gets deep separation. So it's something that bothers me a little bit. You think about playing an NCAA 25. When you have a really fast receiving core, you get this habit of throwing deep. And I almost wonder how Roco would be able to play if he did not have an elite, and especially elite deep threat receiving core. Because he has a lot of really good ones. Great slot fade in the red zone shot that was poorly tracked by the wide receiver, which was Jaden Higgins. So shout out to Jaden. Really could be a star with improved timing. The one time he was more conservative, a wide receiver got open deep. So I remember that he ended up, rather than waiting for the deep throw, ended up finally checking it down. And I'm like, the receiver was getting open deep. I'm like, of all times. He underthrew a jump pass in the red zone, has a fetish with forcing deep passes to the right. Deserving of the hype, but a lot of potential risks of him being an absolute bust by definition of playmaker. Noah Fafita is next. He's a good quarterback. He's just itty bitty. God did not like the idea of this guy being actually good at what he's good at. But let's talk about his game versus Colorado. We talk about that primarily for a lot of other teams. Did not feel backside pressure. Needs to learn not to drift backwards. He does that quite a bit. When stepping into throws, he has been very high. Can zip it into a tight window. Nice rhythm on a quick out route to the tight end. Clean delivery and stride. He ended up fumbling. He dirted a blown up screen. So screen was right there, and the defender saw it all the way. He ended up throwing it into the dirt on purpose. I like seeing that. So the equivalent of throwing it away. Doing a good job not forcing passes. One hell of a fighter, but height does cause him to miss seeing some passing lanes for open receivers on drags and such. Perfect delivery to a quick out route. Nice dump off for a throw on the run. Missed deep right on the inside, so not a fan of that. Again, you guys know me. Place it on the outside or too deep if you're going to not throw it precisely. So he's a pinpoint passer overall. Needs to take the open drag over the contested catch deep. Needs to be open to the check down more consistently. Did not feel backside pressure. Really solid running vision. He knows where to run when he's running. Getting a bit trigger happy, being down so much, ended up leading to an interception. He ended up being pulled, but overall, he flashed great athleticism and foundations of a playmaker, but the height definitely limits his play to find the open targets. It sucks, but this guy, when he's in rhythm, when he's using the proper mechanics, he is pinpoint. He is dynamic as an athlete. He's fun to see. I ended up comparing him to NFL Bryce Young, and it's not a bad idea. He's fun. Josh Hoover's next. Talk about his game versus SMU. It's going to be a little bit shorter and sweeter. He had a pretty good year. He's been doing a good job challenging a lot of teams. But his zip is iffy on his first throws. Both were kind of lofted, albeit good decisions. Poor placement on all throws. Some were awful under pressure in the pocket. He ended up missing deep left. He can thread a needle on some throws and then whiffs awfully on others. Back-to-back huge deep pass completions. Another big completion deep left. I don't know what is up with these drops, though. So Hoover makes the right decisions. He probably has one of the highest processing grades in the entire class. He makes the right decision. Kind of the exact opposite of some of the other players that we've talked about who have like elite arm talent. Hoover is a lot less finesse. He is kind of like gun it to the right guy, but it just doesn't end up working out because he doesn't have the control of his arm, in my opinion, that other players do. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned. It's good to see the deep pass accuracy do well because when you have a good arm and you're making the right decisions, that's how you score touchdowns, right? So I'm hoping that he continues to grow in that. Not really because I'm an SMU grad. Gotta be honest. Gotta show my colors a little bit. But, unbiased Josh Hoover is someone who I have a lot of faith in being able to take a big step up. Carson Beck is next. Carson Beck's a fun player. Sounds like a dick, according to his girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, I should say. Which, to be fair, I mean, there's a reason. I mean, it's an ex-girlfriend, and they're not going to talk, like, great things about you. But I almost started reading John Mateer's stuff, so spoiler on number 7. But Carson Beck, let's talk about his Ole Miss game. First drive he runs, and first driver just runs in a swing pass. So that's not something I really like to see. When I see that the offense is literally catering away from your skill set, not a huge fan of that, but back to it. Nice placement with anticipation on a deep hitch route. Precision is off at the short range. Perfect mid-range layer to a tight end. He ended up hitting while throwing, but he ended up dirting a deep post. So not a fan of that. I like guys who, while they're getting hit, can still somehow deliver with their arm strength. He forced an in route on the move, which was a turnover-worthy play. Another nice deep hitch route with timing and placement on a back shoulder. Great layer on a tight end for a tight end wheel that ended up being dropped. Steps into the throw way too much. So I do want that weight on the back leg and not really like overloading that front. Doing a very solid job on throwing with timing and anticipation on hitch routes and comebacks. He threaded a tight window with the safety coming down. It was risky, but it did work. Nice dump off to a tight end drag and stride. Underthrew a deep wheel, but it ended up being caught. Nice throw away. He ended up having a nice throw away while being under pressure. So I like the fact that, again, when you're under pressure, you don't do hero ball. He has great poise. Excellent throw deep middle on an in route on a third read. So he ended up going through 2 different reads, ended up on the third one, seeing a deep in route, ended up making it. So love seeing that. It's a good flash of processing there. Consistently makes tight window throws. Fumble on a surprise sack. Good vision. So good vision while running. Nice tight window throw over the middle. Literally his worst throws are running back dump offs. End up having a tipped interception, another fumble from a blindside pressure, and then had another fumble. He has some amazing NFL plays, but turnovers killed it. So fingers crossed he can end up doing a bit better of a job with that. We'll see how that goes. John Mateer's next. This guy could be special, all right? And I just got to be honest. I dinged him on processing. This dude was under pressure the whole time. And I mean the whole time. I felt really bad for John Mateer. I don't think he had a good enough time there at Washington State to show what he really had in store for us that he probably should be able to do at OU. I don't know, though, because a lot of guys transferred out of OU. Let's talk about his game versus Boise State. I ended up starting out by saying, holy shit level athlete. Like, he ended up having an immediate huge run off the bat. That one's also on X. Weird mechanics, but has a great flick to his pass. So, like, it's nice, it's quick, and there's some good velocity to it. Solid placement could be improved. Ball velocity is not necessarily popping at the same way that you look at Tayen Green, where it just floats off the hand. Did not see deep out route get open while he's on a rollout. So there was a deep out, it ended up getting open. He did not see it. Great precision when falling away. It was him and Max Brosmer that did this too. Like, when they're falling away, they're arguably more precise. I don't understand that. Offensive line has been very disappointing. Okay, the ball just ended up flying off his hands. So again, like, there's a little bit of inconsistency there, but it's good to see that he has the potential. B is still very good for arm strength. Ended up missing a throw on the run with an overthrow. That was a near interception, but it was catchable. I would just like for it to be thrown closer to the receiver. He underthrew a fade route, good flashes with tempo, good play extension, and throw for a first down. Ball velocity is a lot better than anticipated. Horrible interception, another underthrown deep ball, and missed an open read over the middle. Finally, a great seam shot for a touchdown. Needs to watch out for bailing too deep and taking really bad sacks. Throw timing really needs some work. Needs to know his hot reads a lot better. That's kind of key. Placement is really inconsistent due to wonky mechanics and timing. A lot to work on, but the ceiling is sky high. And that's perfect to talk about Mateer. I really do have some hope for him there at OU. Aiden Childs is next. You guys are probably like, where the hell is this guy? Like, does this guy not make the cut? Which, to be fair, I've only studied the 25 quarterbacks, so nobody has not made the cut. Just go put that out there. Let's talk about his game versus Michigan. Solid initial speed, good pocket feel. He has the best pocket IQ in the class. Solid athlete, but not really dangerous for missed tackles forced. Still ended up making some missed tackles forced. I did like that. Interesting. He threw back shoulder on a goal line drag once the defender's head was around. I like it, even though it was dropped. So there was a drag. The defender ended up turning to go and cover the tight end, and he ended up throwing it back shoulder. The tight end didn't expect that, and he ended up basically dropping it, but it was placed with the right leverage. You don't want to throw it into the linebacker, right? You want to throw it where your receiver has a chance. So I really liked seeing that right there. But he found a deep wide receiver when the play broke down, but he drifted a bit early. He ended up juking a player on an option, so I talked about that earlier. His legs looked very thin. He might be 220. The guy looks pretty thin. He has a lot of room to grow in his frame. He has a good internal timer on when to scramble. Nice rip to a hitch route. Would say his throw motion's a little elongated. He did not feel the speed of, Josiah Stewart behind him, ended up being sacked and fumbled. His placement has been pretty on point. He underthrew a slot fade, so of course, after I end up complimenting someone's placement, he ends up doing some bad throws on it. He ended up then throwing high on an out route. Horribly forced slant route on an inside shade defender. That's a big no-no. So if you're here, your receiver is here, and there's a defender here, and he's running pretty much a slant into the defender, do not throw it. He threw it. Not a fan of that. He's getting a bit gun shy rather than throwing with defenders closing. So not a fan of that. Then he ended up having an intentional grounding. Nice NFL out route with placement and layer, but had a couple hesitation throws. So not a fan of that. He's pretty much going, and then he has to throw it. Like, I don't like the hesitation that he had after making some mistakes. I want to see someone bounce back. Nearly threw an interception with throwing on the run in the red zone. Lots to work on, but the foundation is absolutely there. Aiden Childs could be an incredible asset, or he could just be an absolute bust. It's kind of crazy to see. Like, it's a big dichotomy, but it's pretty obvious that there's a lot of love that you can have there. Cade Klubnik is at number 5. It's really close between 5 and 4, but let's talk about his game versus South Carolina. This is a good player who's improved every single year. A little late on timing for some throws. He can throw the fastball, but he needs to watch out for placement because it certainly wavers when he tries to arm it. He ended up throwing a perfect left seam pass. It had to be schemed because it was covered. Near perfect left seam pass had to be schemed because it was covered. Oh, okay. So he ended up forcing a pass pretty much that was a seam route on the left off the bat. So I'm going to be like, what I was talking about on RPOs? It was a forced read. This is very similar. I would say it's a little bit less risky than someone who could literally lurk and do a pick 6 on an RPO. So he ended up making a good pass. It was still just very tightly covered. And it just seemed like that was the only route that was kind of designed on that play. These phase shots are placed quite well. Deep passes are placed well, but I would say they always are just slightly under, which I wish he would just push it a little more. He pushed it slightly more and put it in a great spot, just ended up having a great play by a defensive back on the next play. Slightly overthrew a seam route under pressure. He does a nice job now in tempo, better than the first drive. He tried a jump pass, layering it over a linebacker, which was not the smartest move because he heavily overshot his tight end and was nearly an interception. Nice NFL out route. Again, I wish it were thrown earlier. Timing is his worst trait because he sees and knows that it's the right throw and waits just a little longer to validate it. He shows that he can work on that because in short yardage situations, he performs very well when having to be timely and decisive. He ended up having a touchdown run, missed a seam opportunity, but made a good throw on his second read for a big gain. So even though he didn't end up maximizing the throw, he still ended up making a good decision. Would like for him to avoid contact a bit better as a runner. He ended up blocking for his running back. I freaking love seeing that. Love the fact that as he climbs into the pocket to run, he still looks to throw. He needs to watch his placement in terms of short range because it gets a little wonky due to his lack of weight on his back leg. It is easily workable, though. Another fade that died on the inside. Nice job putting the ball on the back shoulder on a tight end going over the middle into a defensive back's zone. Let's talk about that leverage. Nice drive into a good spot deep on the right in the middle. So deep right middle, ended up having a good shot. But it still needs some work on his lower mechanics when throwing deep. Interception to end the game off, but it was just bad operation by everyone, not just him. Very encouraged by his growth and can see him to continue to develop and fine-tune into a high-end NFL quarterback, which is a great spot to be because he is literally a quarter of a point away from being at number 4, which is Drew Allar. And Drew Allar, again, he was, I think, at a 72.5, like 71.5. It just shows how much harder these grading systems are, which, yeah, you might say like 1 to 2 points is not that big of a deal, Alex. It is a big deal. And you should know how many players are graded. A 1 to 2 point spot could be 20 to 40 spots. It's insane, but I digress. Let's talk about this game versus Notre Dame because I think that's the one where we're all left with a sour taste in our mouth. Good composure under pressure to find a check down. Turnover-worthy play did not see the linebacker / defensive back crossing the field to cover a wheel route. The running back got wide open. He knew it was the right decision and just ended up throwing it too late where it was nearly picked off. And I'm like, he ended up lobbing it too. And I'm like, dude, that if you see a defender coming out of the corner of your eye and you have the arm that Drew Allar does, zip that shit, man. Zip it in there. If your running back can't catch it, at least it's not a pick. Nice placement on a hitch route, throwing tight window throws that aren't really necessary. He ended up being a little short on a goal line flat. I mean, that's not really a big issue for him, but good poise and throw to a skinny post. I really love his poise. I will say that. He was willing to stand in the pocket and take hits. He's a big dude. Perfect layer on a crosser route. He still has some bad misses on open receivers. Underthrew to fade for an interception. He ended up forcing that interception on the in route for he ended up forcing to throw on an in route for an interception. That's pretty famous. Obviously an underwhelming game for Drew, but still showed all his flaws and all his flashes. The dude is an absolute beast. Like, he just needed an extra year of development before going to the NFL. I think this was an excellent decision for Drew, even though he might be picked later than what he was going to be in this past horrible quarterback class. I'm just going to put it out there, especially looking at the talent that this class has. Like, last year's class, noticeably worse. Like, it's good to see. It's good to see Drew, even if he doesn't get picked at the same spot, he will be a better NFL quarterback with lower expectations because of that. If he was the number 3 pick, he has Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's job on his hands, and he's not there yet. So I'm really excited to see Drew do his thing. Fernando Mendoza, man, I did not expect this. This guy's fun. I'm pretty sure I have some people saying he's QB1. I'm not there. I'm not there with that. But let's talk about his game versus NC State. It was a bad game for him as well, so keep that in mind. Nice zip on a hitch route, quick release, but he could be off when he's trying to rush it. Tried to throw deep on the run, ended up dirting it. Not a fan of that. But nice timing on a hitch route. And I said ×2, ×3. So he continually did that. It was a nice job for him just doing that. Great composure on a developing tight end screen. So there's pressure in his face. He stayed calm and ended up delivering a nice pass on the screen. He's a straight line athlete. Near interception on a forced crossing route. Great short range thrower. Perfect skinny post throw. Forces a lot of passes. He has arm arrogance, but not necessarily the good kind. He has good play extension and completion for the first down. Great scramble to check down for a big gain. Can be a bit late to identify the receiver, but it works out again on another scramble. He stood and took a hit while delivering a drag route on the money. He needs to learn to slide earlier. He ended up forcing a tight end flat that was double covered, ended up having a near interception and did not see the defender coming across the field. I would like a little bit more touch on a seam route. He overshot with a small arc. So I want to see basically that layering. I wanted it to be a bit better. I did not see that necessarily. He gets fidgety when going through reads and not finding one. This tight end is low-key nice for Cal. So do with as you will. He feels pressure later than I expect. Overall, he has the makings of a legit high first rounder if he matures properly. And the reason why he's at number 3, and you see this throughout all the other quarterbacks before, How many of them have a good playmaking grade? Not many. This guy is pretty pinpoint as a passer. And when the play breaks down and he's like extending the play, he extends it very well. It's not like him just running because he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like he extends it and then does the right decision. So I really like that about him. There's a lot of love. I understand why some people have him as QB1. Arch Manning's next. And Arch Manning's super fun. I watched every throw he had this past year. Let's just talk about his game versus Mississippi State because it's a little bit more fun. It was also his second game. Starts out the game with a nice throw deep left on a hitch route with anticipation off the bat. Some dumbass tried to get mad at me because I called it anticipation when it was literally anticipation. It wasn't a crazy throw. It's just nice to see that he could throw before the wide receiver turns around. And he threw it right on the face mask. That matters. Even if it's not a crazy throw. The most boring throws need proper execution in the NFL. So, it's safe to say that guy and I are not talking anymore. If you want to criticize, by all means. But when you want to make it public, just know what you're talking about. And I'm not saying I know everything I'm talking about. I'm just trying to learn. But remember when I said be a dick, don't be a dick about it? Didn't listen to the second part. But regardless, another ball with another perfect pass with anticipation. Perfect end zone shot deep left. Would want a little bit more speed on the ball in the NFL, but it still ended up working out. Perfect deep middle shot. Placement can still get wonky in the short range when he tries to change up his mechanics. Haven't we heard this before? He needs to be a little bit more consistent because it looks like he wants to show off a bit. Super refined upper half with a quick release. Stared down the tight end and overthrew it, but should never have even targeted it because it was overcovered. So he tried to force it and tried to put it in like a unique spot. It's what happens when it's in your second game. Okay, it happens. This offense is pretty much go, go, go with deep passes and nothing simplistic apart from an overly simplistic dump off. So overly simplistic checkdowns and then go, go, go. I really wanted to see like a little bit more complex, which ended up having a couple of them in this game. But the offense is very aware of how athletically outmatched the defense is. And they just took advantage of that a lot. Checking down more, that is good. So I like seeing him check down more. There was a drop touchdown seam pass. Not a fan of that, but it is what it is. He ended up climbing the pocket and made a check down very late. Finally, some higher level tempo throws where he's showing he can operate an NFL offense. When he's rushed, he tends to overthrow and bullet, which I guess is better than lob and underthrow. But I would want for him to have more poise. To be fair, he's a redshirt freshman in his second game. Another deep shot that was left for a touchdown. Then he ended up scrambling into a defender. So watch out for the pocket IQ. Does a pretty good job overall, but I mean, everybody makes mistakes here and there. Weirdly ended up lobbing a 4th and short to a flat route. So ended up, I believe, being stopped as well. I'm like, why did you lob it? I said, hell yes. Evaded a sack, slid up and left, and hit a crosser deep right in stride. So I ended up posting this one as well. My favorite rep so far. So you can go feel free to check that out. Needs to learn to evade contact. He is not built to truck the way that he tries. Even though, I mean, 6'4", 225 is a good build. His pocket presence noticeably improved this game with how he navigated it. He is still very much learning. You can see him adjust the rep after a mistake. For example, if he throws behind on a play, then he ends up trying to adjust, if not overthrow, on the next. Then he ended up having a sniper shot deep left for a post, or deep left post for a crosser touchdown. He ended up having a throw on the run, a little behind, but still ended up being caught. This guy is not coming out next year, but I still needed to include him because it's disingenuous for us not to talk about him. I might not include him in mocks, but he's still part of the class. He just might not elect to come out in it. So I still wanted to talk about him because, again, you guys deserve to know about this guy. He's a stud. The thing is, I might give him a +5 for the Manning boost, but for him being so young, I would have done this for any quarterback. I might have done like a +3. That still would have put him right there, maybe at number 3 behind Fernando Carmona. He's going to be great. Lenora Sellers is a fucking freak. I'm just going to say it. You know, I did not expect this. I was like, what in the actual hell? Let's talk about his game versus Clemson, because this is arguably his worst graded game. Like, it was not a good game. And this guy balled the fuck out. All right? So let's talk about it. First off, I say, like, this is just direct quotes from here, right? I'm not changing anything. I said, holy fuck, he's slippery. Had a certain sack, like it was a certain sack, and ended up turning it into a huge scramble. Needs to learn to throw the check down. he has a little double hop before throwing. So his lower mechanics, he like does a little weird hop before throwing the ball. Something that I would really want the little, again, it's like kind of like tapping the ball before throwing. Is like, yeah, you're telling the defensive backs, but DBs would have like 30 interceptions if ticks like that were what ended up like, really changing the game. Solid placement, especially if he loses the double hop, and he ended up doing it on an angle route. He broke a sack and threw a check down, but the check down was dropped. It was a little low, so, could improve a little bit on the placement there. Needs to watch out while running with the ball in one hand. He can overextend plays, but his wide receivers were not getting open. His placement is nice on a hitch, but he did do the double jump again. I want to see him gun it a little bit, which we do get to see in this game. He's doing a good job at throwing a catchable ball. He just ended up breaking another couple sacks for a huge gain, WTF. A little high on an RPO, but still catchable. The wide receiver just ended up dropping it. Holy hell, he just stepped up and delivered over the middle into a tight window with a defender on his ankle. I ended up posting that one. I love that rep. He stiff-armed a defender, so I always love seeing guys 6'3", 240 pounds and doing shit like that. Ridiculous. His offensive line is letting him down big time. The ball was there on a rollout. The wide receiver ended up just giving up. So I thought it was a good spot. Ended up the wide receiver actually just kind of was the reason why the play didn't end up working out. Quick upper mechanics with great placement. He threw a little behind on a wheel route, but the receiver had a lot of room, and it may have been intentional. So I think he ended up, similar to what I was talking about earlier, I think it was with Sawyer Robinson. You kind of expect a player when they're wide open and there's no one around them, stop running full speed. Like, maximize the area you're in. And the receiver did not do that. So I do think in the NFL, smart receivers, watch their tempo. And, I'm going to think that I think that would end up working out for him. But thought he could gun it over a safety on an RPO and nearly threw a pick. So, yeah, I said I'm fine with that because it's easily learnable. He ended up having a little bit of arm arrogance in this game, and he still does. Did another insane scramble for a huge gain, WTF. And I said, comp Superman. I debated keeping comps in this, but I think you guys will like the archetype more than just seeing NA for comps. But that is my comp for him. It's pretty much Superman. Did not see the deep end that got open, but it would have been close to it. Like, he would have ended up having, it would have been close to getting him being sacked when he'd be realizing what it is. He ended up still scrambling for his first. So, maybe I could eat crow on that. The guy ended up just making a first down from a play where I'm like, he could have ended up throwing this route. The dude knows how to throw the ball. On the run, he ended up throwing a tight window sideline catchable, albeit very tough throw. It was low percentage, but he ended up making it possible. So that's something I really like about him. He maximizes throwing windows in a way that I didn't really think that he could. He ended up checking down a bit too early on 3rd and 20. There was not enough pressure to do that, and had some good routes that were developing. I'd want a little bit more patience. He ended up having pressure in his face, ended up having a perfect delivery on a deep crosser right. He could have been a little bit earlier, but I said, who cares? He has strong enough arm, and he still ended up doing that with pressure in his face. I said, how can he move like this at 240? He ended up there was a great interception that was a lurk by a corner. Would have been possible with anticipation. Like, the throw would have been possible with anticipation and better depth on the pass, but the wide receiver actually gave up and did nothing to contest it. So I said, shit job by the wide receiver. Could have done a better job by Sellers, though. And I said, he's literally shedding tackles like Marshawn Lynch. I said, love the arm arrogance, but he needs to understand defenders' wingspans more, because if he waits a microsecond more, he can get it past them, but he almost had another interception on a tip ball. I want for him to throw a little earlier into route development. Defenders just get too close for my liking. So just like the timing, improve that. Like, that's literally the issue. Like, just throw it a little bit earlier, my friend. You're doing the right job. Just throw it a little earlier. Perfect goal line seam shot for it. Perfect goal line seam shot for a touchdown. I get why he runs so much. No one can stop him. This guy's incredible. He's the highest graded quarterback I've ever studied. I mean, Lenore Sellers genuinely could be the best quarterback in the NFL. It's hard to like say which quarterback is better at pretty much anything but timing than him that I studied in terms of an overall package. Who is built like this? Like, you have a frame that people dream of. He is elusive. He is powerful. He is fast. He is strong. He has a really strong arm. He can throw it into tight windows. He has moments of poise. He's aware that he has a good arm and can handle like placement. It's insane. And the fact that he's making first round players like Peter Woods and TJ Sanders look silly, eating air, eating the turf, the little rubber pellets getting into their mouthpiece because they're just straight up putting the grill in the ground, not into Lenore Sellers. It's insane. And I don't know if Lenoris is going to get to that level because I don't think that South Carolina is going to be necessarily the spot where I see it working. But my God, you put him with somebody who knows how to use him properly. You have someone who could be a top 3 quarterback on your hands. We'll see if this comes back to bite me in the ass. I really don't hope it does. Like with certain players that like Garrett Nusmire, I really hope it does. But Lenoris gave me the excitement for a quarterback outside of his timing on throws that I haven't gotten before. And I'm really hoping that, people end up seeing it, which there are right now. He's pretty much a locked top 5 pick. I really hope he ends up being more like he can continue this. So thank you so much for watching. Love you guys for going through this with me. And we're on to a great season. See you on the far side. Peace.